Welcome to Effective Communication session. This happens once every Saturday of the last Saturday of the month. Effective communication. I'm hearing my voice and feedback. Happens once every Saturday of the last Saturday of the month. Give me a sec. Good afternoon, Madam Tosin. Good afternoon, Madam Ade. Or morning, sorry.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good
morning,
morning, everybody.
Apologies, there was a mix-up where I book. Normally, we don't have any mix-up, but we have NHS here today. So there was a slight. There we go. So I just need to get the course on track. Yeah, life's not perfect. We have glitches, but we do get on with it. I need to just charge my laptop. So here we go. Today I'm talking about effective communication, but one thing that's actually caught my attention, particularly I want to focus in, dial into today is the threshold for understanding. That is so powerful. But before I go on, let me just take the music down a little notch.
Good evening, members of the public, be it that you're on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or wherever you may be. I acknowledge you're receiving this tonight or whenever you are getting.
There you go. We've been able to get every other 1 million tabs settled. Welcome back to Effective Communication. Again, I'm your host, Tokes W. Child. Everything we do is right behind me. You'll find it next to me. Slight mix-up, so hence the delay, but it will be a fantastic session. I'm always incredibly looking forward to this the entire month. Now, communications make or break relationships, career, and businesses. In this presentation, we explore key components of communication. This is AI generated. Obviously, we're trying to keep up with the times. However, there is a whole lot of sprinkles of human generated PowerPoint. And that is important that we note down. So let's get to it. Build relationships. I'm not going to go into pretty much details reading what you can see. Improve productivity, enhance personal growth. I'm just going to engage people and ask questions. Let me just ask, Madam Tola, if you can you explain to us where communication can help people build strong relationships?
Good evening. I said good morning once again.
Morning.
Yes, there are many places communication can build strong relationship. We have different kind of relationship. We have business relationship. We have family relationship. We have marriage relationship. So these major places, especially family, business, and marriage, communication no one knows the mind of anyone. So for each of these relationships to be successful, there has to be proper, effective communication so that they can be understanding, because there is no relationship without understanding, and there is no understanding without effective communication.
Fantastic. Yeah, it helps relationship. I'm just drawing a chat over here in terms of thresholds, but I'm going to ask you a very interesting question. Madam Tosin, I don't know whether you can see my board. Can you see my board at all?
Yes, sir. Of course, yes. I can see frequency ..
And
Then
then underneath, medium, excellent.
medium.
Okay, all right, so now we're trying to look at this dash, dash, dash. The lowest dash on the frequency. For somebody to understand you, if you don't need to vibrate high. Yeah, if you don't need to vibrate so high, what do you think is that? Is that a great listener, or is that somebody of average listening skills, or is that a poor listener?
I think that's a poor listener because it's not even reaching the middle one. I think the middle one should be like average, is it not? So
Okay.
if it's still, yeah. So I think that's even acceptable if you are there. But if you're still even below, you're a poor listener because you're below average. To me, with the way I'm reading the graphs,
Okay, so this is the interesting, it's a flip, it's the opposite of that. Okay,
oh, okay.
so GL, great listener, PL, let's say poor listener. So if you're speaking, if you're speaking to a child, if the child would listen to you all the time when you speak, you have a reduced chances of having to raise your voice. Is that correct?
Yes, because if it's GL, good listener, so that means that you're not even supposed to be shouting. So if
No.
you're on, yeah, but so if you're on PL, and that's like, that means, and you're shouting, that I think it looks like you're not good enough, I guess, because GL is, the lower your frequency, the better it is for you.
Yes,
That's
good.
from what.
Now, in this session that we're covering today, we're looking at so many other factors that can affect people and make them a poor listener. So somebody, if they don't have if they have financial problems, if they have health problems, if they have emotional problems, that makes them a poor listener. So you need to increase your frequency. But what you sometimes find is, yes, people are shouting at these people, but they've forgotten that there's other factors inhibiting their listening skills. If you ever find a little child who's watching television, who's really excited about what they're watching, you can call them for hours. They wouldn't hear their name. They're gone into that world. So no matter how much you're shouting, they still can't hear. So you need to match their frequency. But if you've got their attention, if that child is settled and they're relaxed and they're not distracted, when you call their name once, even if it's a whisper, they can hear it and they pick it up. This is the information, basically communication threshold that we have to think about whenever we're talking. So in business, you want to do a deal, but the person you're talking to is not listening. You need to try to either remove the factors or use your own body language, frequency, everything to match that level that they are so they can listen to you. So that's why you have a whole lot of many adverts on TV, so that because they believe the average person is a poor listener, so they have to advertise so many times before they can get your attention. But what that has created by evolution, that has made people even more poor in listening. They become worse. Sorry, I've realized that I've got my pen to the fan here. It's going to dry away. So there you go. That's something that I wanted to talk about. I'll elaborate more into that later. Here we go. The big barriers of effective communication that I just talked about. It could be noise, emotional state, language, misunderstanding. So sometimes you find that most misunderstanding is because the person you're talking to, where their frequency is very, very high. They're expecting you to talk high to get their attention, but you're expecting that you wouldn't make so much effort. If they're partners, they're people in a relationship. Now, if you're speaking to your spouse, your partner, if that person doesn't have any problems, you don't have to make a lot of effort. Information will be carried through. So this is when people have, what do you call it, the wooing state, the interesting state, where people understand each other. There is no problem. Everybody gets along. However, should that person have problems at their job, at their church, at their family, outside the relationship, what automatically happens is that person will lose. Yeah, that person will lose majority of the information you're given. A little bit of the information will filter through. So many people go to church, but not everybody hears the pastors. So many people go to the mosque, but not everybody's listening, because they have their own problems also speaking loudly in their mind. So it blocks the threshold. The information has to be loud enough. There has to be either a fire, a spark. That's why people can hear fireworks, Happy New Year, all of these kind of things. It's all numbing us more and more. And we're becoming, a species of people that is very, very difficult to communicate with. Okay. Mr. Daniel, do you have any contributions concerning the threshold? Have you encountered anything like that, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm sorry for coming late. I actually set my alarm to be here, but I was carried away with something else.
Don't worry, sir.
Concerning the question you asked, Madam Tola, regarding forgotten the question, how communication can improve relationship.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have experience in that regard when it comes to communication. Like we always preach in the church that women love to talk and they want people to listen to them. And if you don't listen, there is a problem. But at times when I'm married, at times at night, when I get back home from the office, I'm glued to my laptop working. And this woman did not see me since morning. Now she's seeing me. She wants to talk. And I am not ready to listen. I still want to continue the work I left off in the office. I still want to continue it in the house. Now, at times I will feel like, let me just shout on this woman so that she can leave me alone and I can focus. But I discovered that is wrong. I can't shout on her. I just pretend to play along. And when she's requesting for feedback, I can't give feedback because I did not concentrate on what she was saying. And, she can talk 30 minutes without feedback. But when she wants the feedback, if I do not give that feedback, then there'll be trouble. So I think good communication is being a good listener. I think it would go a long way. And I appreciate you for that particular threshold you showed the other time. It really makes a lot of sense. And while you are showing me, a question dropped in my mind. I don't know if I'm free to ask the question on that now, or I wait to the end of your presentation.
You can wait. You can wait. What I was going to say, my own contribution is what you said is so powerful. I think there's so many relationships. In fact, in our culture, there's so many relationships where that notion that you said is kept in men's head, that they believe that whatever they are not interested in, it's just people yabbing away. That it's not just women. Anybody, it could be a guy, it could be a girl. They believe that whenever their interest is not there, oh, that person is just yabbing nonsense away. However, it's so huge that what you're saying has affected so many relationships. Some women have endured and stayed in those relationships, even though there is no effective communication. But if you go around the world and you go to other cultures, what sometimes the men do when the women try to speak to them, they drop everything they're doing, they put their phone down, they remove their glasses, they get the cup of tea, and they're sitting down, not thinking of any other thing, but in that conversation. And the value of that is so, it's something so high, it's so priceless, it's invaluable. You can't put a price on it. I remember all my friends that I've had relationships with like that, like whenever we're talking, they know that I'm in that conversation. And when I'm speaking, I know they're in that conversation. So the responses we're getting, we're communicating at such a high level that it allows almost, I can predict what she's going to say next, or she could predict what I'm going to say next. And that makes, it's fantastic. Now, even more interesting, I'll say this. In relationships where partners don't see eye to eye or don't communicate very well, you'll find that some co-workers, though they're not in a relationship, they communicate even better than people who are in a relationship. These co-workers get along so well. They understand each other. They understand body language. Whenever they're talking, they can tune into each other. So people find it so comfortable to ask their co-worker for favors than they ask their own partners, because communication is big, is key. So let's have a look. I'll take the question later on. Let's have a look. Body language. So nonverbal cues, postures, hand gestures, facial expression. I mean, I came in here where I'm sat down right now, and there were people in my room where I'm always meant to work. But the way I spoke to them, instead of, they allowed me, we're working together. They're next door to me. They're set up. They've even gone out because of me. They've given me 1 hour. The understanding, I've never met these people before. They've left all their gear that I'm looking after. It's just the way we work. So I find that all in communication. It's the way I'm dressed, is the way I've come up, is the way I've greeted them, is how I've dealt with the problem. All of that is what's allowed this kind of beautiful resolution. I think people need to start understanding that communication is so powerful. Just this morning, I've been able to save more than 2 or 3 million naira over the telephone call, just one call and one conversation. And somebody was finding me options and opportunities were coming. And I could see that it's communication. It is communication. It's so powerful. So eye contact. And when you're talking to people, are you distracted? Are you watching the TV? Are you watching the football? Are you watching your work? Or you're making an eye contact with the person you're talking to? People travel all the way to have certain communication. And people with poor communication skills don't understand that they've traveled the way to see them, to have a tone of voice, an eye contact, a body language, to be in the presence of. So let's imagine for a second, if Jesus were alive today. And Jesus had to say, I'm doing a show. I'm booking this auditorium, and I want people to come over. And everybody's like, oh, I've been waiting 2,000 years to go see Jesus. I'm going to go see Jesus. If you have the opportunity to be in front of him, you're going to have to communicate. You're going to want to communicate. You're going to give him eye contact, tone of voice, body language. You're going to want to listen to him, and you're going to want him to listen to you. And, the people who are good communicators, this is what they really do. This is what they excel at. I'm just trying to make sure people are not trying to join us and they're struggling. Oh, all right. So here we go. Active listening, the secret of effective communication. Stop talking, start listening. So when people are talking to you, don't talk, don't interrupt them, listen, allow it. I would have delayed even further, have to get set up in another room, but I just had to do this real quickly because I want to be on time. I want to get things going. I listened to them, they listened to me. It was fantastic. Anytime in the military, if they're having a communication, they always ask for people to paraphrase. That is, you say what's been said to you, how you understand it, so that the authorizing officers can know and tell that you are listening, that you are understanding what's been saying to you. So an example is, put yourself in the speaker's shoes, try to understand their perspective and acknowledge their feelings. Imagine somebody's written a book and they're standing on a stage and they're talking. If you want to get their attention, If you've read their book and you ask a question about, an intriguing particular phrase or sentence or paragraph from their book, that person knows you didn't just read their book, you were actively listening when you were reading that book. There's so many things we read that we're not paying attention to. That person would show empathy in responding to whatever, if they give 30 seconds to everybody, they're going to give you more time because you're coming across, quoting them and asking them a question that, what were you thinking about when you were talking like this? So it's really, really powerful to be able to paraphrase, to be able to go into people's words and ask them questions about it. But the questions are not to defeat the purpose of communication, but to elucidate, to even make it more better. Respond appropriately. So like Mr. Daniel was saying, that you need to respond in an appropriate manner, using tone, words, and convey respect. Sometimes I was in the same position. My partner said to me that all the time I'm very busy. I'm hardly ever available. Even when I'm driving, I'm still on phone calls. So I noticed that and I said, you know what? I'm going to make sure that every time we're together, I'm going to try to make sure I reduce the phone calls and schedule to call people back so that I'm available. So you can ask me any questions and the conversations can be smooth. So I'm not distorting the conversation. Now that little move that I've made, what does that do? It gives respect to the person. It allows them to understand that they're being heard, that the words and their thoughts are being valued. So it's powerful. It changes communication dynamics. So today I've shown threshold, and there's also communication dynamics. If you've never spoken to somebody before, there's a limit to what you can say on the first time. You may want to say everything. If you say everything, the energy in your words will convey very, very different meaning because you don't have a currency of sharing time with that person prior. So if you've known somebody before and you're speaking to them, they are more receptive to whatever you're going to say. They have, they can remember and you can cash in on the currency of the time shared and they give you that value back. However, it won't happen to somebody you're meeting on the first time. So the different types of communication, we have verbal communication, nonverbal, visual, and written communication. Now, like I said, I'm not going to read so much into all of this. Apologies that I'm on blast. People are talking to me left, right, center. It's just they're in their world and they feel the time is convenient for me. I apologize for that. That's on their part. So here we go. Visual communication, written communication includes emails, memos, reports, and writing. So people have different gifts. Some people are very, very, really, really highly skilled in verbal communication. They're not good in nonverbals. They can't pick up subtle movement. They can't pick up when somebody is trembling, sweating, somebody's fidgety, somebody's pacing. They cannot pick up those. Some people are visual communicators. They like to see things on the screen. They remember everything. They map up the image. I think there was a guy who with some high level of autism who was in a helicopter and flown over a city, and he was able to draw the city from memory, and that's visual communication. And then you have written communication such as emails, memos, reports, and other written documents. So some people's emails are always understood. Yeah, some others not so much. Here we go. Tips for improving communication. Practice active listening. Please, when someone is talking to you, focus on what they're saying, ask questions to gain deeper understanding. Now, when you do this and people would know you, you will soon build a reputation of somebody who is always with the environment, you're with that conversation. People would prefer to speak to you rather than just speak to everybody else because you are an active listener. When you're speaking as well, avoid jargon. So there's no need for me to be talking about communication today and using acronym. Everything that I was talking about when I said great listener, instead of saying GL, I said great listener. Jargon and complex language causes confusion. It does not help you clear up your points. Pay attention to nonverbal cues. People convey lots of information through body, tone of voice, facial expression. Pay attention to cues to gain more understanding. Practical exercises for improving communication. Record your own speech. So I play all these things that I do. I record it and I help myself get better. I move up levels. I've seen myself go brown heights, in terms of proficiency, in terms of communication, in terms of written communication. In fact, I give myself time when I'm trying to communicate so I can analyze what I'm trying to say and make sure that what I'm thinking, the intent is well implemented in my communication. Actively listening to a friend, choose a friend to talk to, focus actively to what they're saying, paraphrase what they're saying so you understand. WhatsApp has killed all of this. People don't say, so you mean this? So is this what you're saying? All of that is missed. Write a concise email, write an email to a colleague or friend using concise language that is very clear and straight to the point. Role play a difficult conversation with a friend, a colleague, practice active listening and respond appropriately. So if you role play effective communication, for example, like we always do today, when I ask you guys question, I was listening to everybody. I was making sure, so that's me role playing, showing you can actually listen carefully to people. People take this as, the three things in life. Those are the greatest things. But people take these things as not so important, but they are incredible, I can tell you. This is what allowed big companies to merge and is what broke down big companies that went under. So in the UK, we have a company called Wilco's, it's just gone under. There's so many other companies that might be struggling. If you don't have people to effectively communicate for you, things will go south. So there you go. That is the AI version of effective communication. I've kind of done it all rounder. I'm going to say, I recommend people to take our course that is free. But I want to hear more from people listening to me. So, Madam Ade, what is your takeaway today? Don't want to go too deep into effective comms. What's your takeaway today?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tux, for the privilege. My takeaway is when we're talking about the threshold, the emotional state that could affect listening, the barriers that we could have in communication. And most times we just see people are rude, sometimes people shout, sometimes people can be unnecessarily pissed sometimes. And the mistake we always make, or let me personalize it, that I may sometimes make is that I always assume, oh, it's my fault, that this person is reacting this way. So sometimes I try to fix the situation. What can I do to make the situation better? But I always say, sometimes it's a them problem, and you just have to just calm down for them to get themselves together. Because no matter what you say, if someone is in an emotional turbulence, if somebody is angry, I think there was this British show that I watched, and the woman said that just look at somebody being rude. Underlining being rude may be the fact that they are frightened. Some people are rude because they are frightened. Some people are rude because they are exhausted. Some people are rude because they're tired. So when they are communicating, they communicate rudely. And you may think, oh, they are being disrespectful, or you may think, oh, it's your fault that they are being rude. Have I done something? Have I portrayed myself in a way that they will be rude to me? But it's actually not about you. It's actually a them situation. And all we can just do is to have that conversation with them some other time, understanding the fact that we can't achieve anything communicating with them as long as they're in that state. So for me, my all in all is to always consider all the factors that could affect the way this person is responding, and that could also affect the way I'm responding. Instead of jumping to conclusions that, oh, this person has misunderstood me, or maybe instead of jumping to the conclusions that I'm not, I may be the one making the person react the way they react. So that's my take home.
Yeah, so your take home, just to summarize, so I'm effectively listening to you, is sometimes you might just want to be patient and change the time, isn't it? The time of the
Yes.
conversation might be all you
Yeah.
need to do.
Yes.
It's fantastic. No, I agree with you. It could be time. Sometimes it could be the person. You might not be able to reach that person if, for example, that person is not skilled to be able to see beyond their problem. So,
Yeah.
for example, if somebody has a financial problem and they're going to be having that financial problem for 3 months, you can't wait for them. You might have to move on to the next person, the person,
Yes.
or the person to the side of them. You can't fix them.
Yeah.
You can only try to be better. And if you are an effective communicator and you've gotten to the height of your communication, and you realize you still can't communicate, you have to give that person their space and move on to where you could communicate, because
Yes.
the communication you're trying to pass on, there's 1,000 people waiting for you where one door is shut. So you literally can't fix the factors, because to solve every individual person's problem is an ineffective, inefficient way of dealing with things. People have
Yes.
to be able to grow up and solve their own problem. But what you can do is understand them and not make it personal. Just be
Yeah.
okay with it. So like somebody said, no matter how many people tell you no, let's see, play the game of when are they going to say yes? How many no's can you get before you get yes? You'd be surprised. You get lots of yeses, because you're not focusing on the yes, you're focusing on the no. So if you focus on people listening to you, you might not get them to listen to you. But if you're okay and say, it's all right if you listen to me, it's all right if you don't, you might get lots of people to actually listen to you, to hear you out. Madam Tosin, what's your takeaway, if you can hear us?
Okay. My takeaway basically is that we should keep I feel like we all need to keep learning, really. And I also we all need to keep learning. Like there are a lot of scenarios and circumstances that will always test our effective communication skill. That's it. Like when you were talking about the way you made more money and all of those things. Sometimes you might not even think about it. Okay, you might think that, oh, you're already perfect with this thing, you can do this and all of that. Then another scenario comes and tests your ability again, and you're like,
Oh, the reception is taking Tosi away. Mr. Daniel, do you want to take over from Tosi and tell us what's your takeaway? And then you had a question for me.
Yeah, thank you, sir. My take home, a big take home today for me is the listening part. Your listening skills is not complete. Sorry, your communication skills is not complete without being a good listener. So being a good listener is very, very, very key. And that's I'm sure that though I'm aware about you listening, being a good listener, but my attention has not been drawn to it so much in time past, like what has happened today. And I think I will work on myself to be a good listener, because I was sharing it with some people in church last week Sunday, that no matter how old the marriage is, even if it is 100 years, and that same woman you married from your youthful age is now about 88 years old, that doesn't change her from being the woman she used to be. She still wants to talk, and she still wants that her husband to listen to her. Don't see her like, man, you're not more young anymore. I think we are old, so you should do less of talking. They still want to talk even at their old age. So one should pay attention to that. So the listening part is my major take home today. And I also encourage everyone listening to these recording now or later that communication in relationship is very, very key. I have a case this morning of a wife that wants to pack out of the husband's house. Why? Because they only had a time for their courtship before going into marriage, because medically it was proved that the lady would have issue with childbearing, and she has to get married before a particular age. So she had to rush herself into a relationship, and in 2 months, 3 months, they went straight into marriage. And now the marriage is about just 3 months and they're having issues. The wife is breaking bottles, she wants to stab the husband. All this came from wrong communication. There was no intimacy from the beginning. These guys have not rubbed minds together. What I want, what I like, we're not there. So that is why they are having issues now. So communication is very, very key. We can't just jump it. So going to my question, talking about in an official environment, because my mentality before now is that if I communicate to you and you misinterpreted what I told you, I am wrong. It means I have communicated wrongly. I didn't pass the message correctly. That's my mentality from now, before now, and that is what I have. But my question is, uh, to what extent can I go to communicate to somebody in an official environment? That's number one. Number two is, to what extent can I get myself blamed? Can I accept blame for somebody getting me wrong? Even if if I choose my words rightly, my emotions, my look, and I'm trying to pass it across to you, and you're still not getting it, to what extent can I accept the blame for wrong communication? Those are my questions, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Fantastic question. Now, it's more like what the kind of question I ask myself in education. I say, to what extent can a teacher teach a student, even if the student is failing and you're doing everything possible to help the child? To what extent do you take responsibility of the child's failure? That's the kind of question that you're asking. So what it is this, I see as, number one, we are not always 100%, we ourselves. You don't have the same level of health. You don't have the same level of effort, energy inside you. Different times throughout the day, you have different levels of energy. You have best times for communication. You have not so great time. If you call somebody in the middle of the night, like so many people are talking and calling me right now, and as I'm on air, you can all agree that it will be a poor time for me to take their call or take their conversation. So it's not the best time. So obviously, I have to find a very polite way to let them know that it's not. If I ignore them, they will get miscommunication. But again, I can't punish myself too much because I have very little time. I have to concentrate here and at the same time manage automated messages and say, this is what I'm doing. I'll get back to you. When it comes to communication, if you were in your optimum, if it was the beginning of the morning, you're fantastically, you have all the energy and stuff, and you could communicate, you can do your very best. That's all you can do for that very moment, as the best changes in different times. But for the person who's listening to you, it also depends. It's a 50-50 way. They share part of the blame. If they're listening, if they're able to listen, if they're able to drop what they're doing to listen to you. Like majority of these ladies, these wives that complain that their husband's not listening to them, the husbands are not taught to communicate with people who are busy cooking, who are busy looking at it, wearing a clothes, who are busy shopping online. The husbands in the world of men, men communicate together with listening to each other. We don't, I'm not distracted by I'm shopping online, I'm checking a shoe, I'm booking something. No. We were very direct. We have our clear conversations, but women don't have that particular, general understanding. They multitask. The way their brain is oriented, they multitask. They can do so many things, but they don't understand that they need to drop those things to listen. And so that their listening skills can be sharpened. There's so many women that think that they're very, very incredible and effective at listening. They think that their listening skills is second to none. But if you see people talking to them, you'll be surprised. Now, Mr. Daniel, if you notice women in the ages of 50, 60s or more, their listening skills kind of gets better. If you notice that, they respond much, much better. When people are speaking to them, they take their time to listen and they take their time to comment. But the ladies that are much younger, are still in that prime era where they can do this and do that. So they can easily miss information. They can easily not understand. And the effective communication is hearing all of the information at the time with the intention that it was said and understanding what was communicated. Now, if you are slightly distracted, you have put a filter in the way to stop it. So it's a 50-50. You just need to know that, am I meeting my 50%? Am I doing my very best to communicate? Am I looking somewhere else when I'm communicating? Am I giving you eye contact? Am I giving you, that's all you can take that. But when it gets to them, you cannot take the responsibility of their listening skills for them. Majority of marriage fights and all of that, it's all down to the fact that when the thing was said, it was said in a different tone. The person misheard. The person was also the background to that conversation being had, that person's headspace, where they are. And a person might be belligerent already. They might be thinking about fighting. So when you're communicating something that is quite subtle, it happens a lot because of culture. They are not listening to you in a subtle way. They're not hearing what you're saying. And when you're saying that you're sorry, they don't understand. So I would say you're in an environment where communication has depleted severely for a very long time. So it would take a whole lot of effort for you to have two parties who are communicating effectively. You might get it, you might see it work on TV, you might see it work on radio stations, but it's not common. People make it suggest that it's common, but it isn't. Because majority of the fights are avoidable, majority of arguments are avoidable, majority of misunderstandings highly avoidable. But people are not listening. People have made assumptions. But if you ask the person you're speaking to, please, what did I say? What did I mean? Then you would get that the person either understands you or they don't understand you, or they put their version of understanding on what you've said. So that's the only way. You can only check and you can only improve, and they can only improve, but you cannot ascertain whether it is your fault when you've done the very best and you're communicating at the very best time. Best time for you might not be best time for the person you're speaking to. Yeah, they might have different things going on. That's why very first thing to ascertain is it a good time to talk? Time is important. Then ascertain that they've understood you. Have you understood what I was saying? This is what I was saying. This is what I meant. How did you understand it? How does it sit in for you? And then they listen to you and they keep quiet. Notice if the person asking the question is keeping quiet and paying attention to you when you're saying. That would tell you whether they're listening. I'm looking at our time. We want to try to do things bang on time. Madam Ade, thank you for joining back, even though internet took you away. Mr. Daniel was talking about where do we draw the line? What are you responsible for? And what is the other person responsible for? And I'm saying communication is so big, it's not small at all. Do you have a contribution about that, madam?
None, sir. No.
No, not none. Okay. So big things that I think Mr. Daniel raised, where we come from in West Africa, we have cultures that have labeled genders to have certain types of archetype, which is an inaccuracy. You might have some women that don't want to talk. You might have women that do want to talk, but they're saying logical things that need to be listened to. You might have people that are talking from an emotional place, but they're not talking about what they need to talk about, but they're having all the symptoms of the emotion playing. You know, and some men just go, hey, woman, leave me alone. Hey, woman, do this. It's a terrible generalization. It's something that needs to stop. I think also on the premises, women have also said men are different things. Men dogs, men this, men that. It's also very wrong. It's not all men that are like that. Men are different. Men do different things for different reasons. Until everyone is the owner of their behavior, until you speak to them and you ask them and you ascertain from them why they're doing a certain thing, you do not have any right to conclude or make any assumption. You have not effectively communicated. So if they say a politician has done this or that, until we interview and ask him and he defends himself and what he says makes sense, we cannot ascertain whether that's true or not. It is still hearsay until we give that person a chance. So on that note, I want to conclude today's episode of Effective Communication. We have talked about communication thresholds. We've talked about who's responsible when people are communicating. The PowerPoint part was quite short, but it's more interactive. We hope whoever stumbles on this on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you stumble on Instagram, we hope this is very useful to you. We want to wish you a fantastic Saturday. This is a free course on ACE Professionals. You can log in and access this course. We have leadership for effective communication. That is not free. We have effective communication for team workers. That is also not free. But general effective communication, in terms of how important it is, we've made it free for all. Please access it, get your own hearing, and you can check on Google and see how much fantastic reviews that we're getting on this. So again, thank you for staying with us, members of the public.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I have a follow-up question, sir, a brief one.
Yes, please.
Concerning last month edition of this program.
Okay.
So can I ask what happened after the last month edition concerning the partnership with the woman you brought on the program and the victims?
Okay, so what's happened so far is that we haven't, we've not had any inquiries come to us, but I partly blame us because we don't have a page and a continuous advert that is emphasizing and sharing that effective communication. Also, the mood over here is that it seems the West Africans are the ones trying to sabotage and put a whole lot of not so great a spotlight on ourselves. That whatever they have a visa type, it is for all countries, but the noise and the heat was almost centered on a group of people, a selective few. So it wasn't welcome. The people in the community did not welcome the woman's interference in helping people. The way they heard that message is that, oh, you are basically putting a bad light on us. That's what they've taken away. However, I think people are genuinely in trouble and they need support. But again, you have to be very, very careful. You're working down a very, very thin line in explaining to people that this is only to support. This is not to put a bad light, bad spotlight on people saying that they're doing this. and this is our community is really bad, or we have poor skills. But that's what people are hearing. So you need to kind of revert back and look for a balance in which how you communicate. If the mood of the crowd is in a different way, no matter what you're saying, no matter how good, even if you're right and you're fact, Jesus and all the other people that come in the past can be a proof to that. You can get killed for saying the right thing, regardless, just because the mood did not accept it. So you need to be careful. We will promote it, but we're hoping that the mood improves, and we're hoping that the focus becomes positive amongst our community, so that there's a reception for the message. So yeah,
Thank you for the feedback, sir. Thank you.
no, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. All right. Thank you very much. Have a very lovely Saturday. Take care. Thank you.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye.